I think every single person on this planet needs to be educated and re-educated about climate change. We are dedicated as the UN Framework Convention on Climate Change to embrace this education issue.
We can look into the eyes of our children, our grandchildren, and we can finally say, tell them that we have joined hands to bequeath a more habitable world.
L'accord de Paris pour le climat est accepté.
State Congress voted to ban abortion. Alternate universe located.
Global temperatures rise.
The effects on social media on Generation Z.
To avoid catastrophe, rising sea levels, and dying coral reefs, the epicenter of a global pandemic.
No exception for rape or incest.
Welcome to an impromptu morning show here right now. Where we don't have time is in Belém, but we are actually this time in the Amazon rainforest. Belém being a city on the edge of the Amazon rainforest. I've got with me Ingmar Rentzhog, the CEO and founder of We Don't Have Time. And of course, my dear friend Katarina Rolsdotter Jansen, who's co-presenting most of the shows here with us. Ingmar, why is it important to be here in the Amazon?
I mean, it's so diverse here. It's really a unique experience to come here instead of in the blue zone, in the plastic tent and everything. We're really out in the nature, and we can't take this for granted anymore, because according to science, this is very near a tipping point where the rainforest can go away and become, dry land, and the rain will stop. It will affect the whole region, and it will be a disaster, because if that happens, we will escalate, because there's so much carbon stored in those rainforests, not only the biodiversity. So we need to protect biodiversity, we need to protect the rainforest, and if we fail on that, it's not a problem for Belém or a problem for Brazil, it's a problem for the health of the planet, and it will affect us wherever we are on this planet. So this is so important, and I think it's really great that we actually have a COP where we can see this, where all the delegates on the Sunday are going to the nature and see what it's all about. I think next COP meeting I will hope that we're going to the Arctic and see that as well. We need to see the nature we're here to protect.
There have been a lot of studies, I think, by scientists that have shown that certain ecosystems start suffering at different temperatures, right? The coral reefs are vulnerable at 1.5, less than 1.5 degrees centigrade. Temperature rise on average worldwide. I think the Amazon rainforest starts really suffering somewhere over 2 degrees centigrade. It might be 2.5, 2.8, can't quite remember, but we are still climbing in terms of global temperature. So that's why it's a big deal, Katarina.
And that's also why we're partnering with the Planetary Science Pavilion. And every day we share their press briefings in our show. And we've had Carlos Nobre, the leading Amazon specialist and scientist, on our shows twice already. And I'm sure he'll be coming back. And he is so worried about the state of the Amazon. It was also, like Ingmar said, the implications of the collapse of the ecosystem here will affect the entire planet. So this is really, really important that we are able to amplify their voices during COP and also outside of the COP, of course, globally.
Good. So back to the studio in Belém.
Well, it was indeed quite an experience to visit the rainforest, and also a very welcome break from the hustle and bustle and the noise and the strong AC here at the convention center. So this is the first day of the second week here, broadcasting from COP30 in Belém, Brazil. And it was a rest day for the COP, the people at the COP yesterday, but
there was so much happening outside of the venue yesterday and also Saturday. There was a big march of 70,000 people, the People's Summit. It was the biggest display of civil engagement since COP26 in Glasgow, actually. And it included indigenous people, farmers, and all sorts of trade unions and unionists, and also representatives of many NGOs. So it was a big event. In this context, good news is indeed happening here at the COP. So according to our partner Mission 2025, $9 billion is now committed to sustainable agriculture and restoration. And it is prognosed to reach 210 million hectares of land and also 12 million farmers in more than 110 countries. So this is the week where things will heat up in the negotiations, and where you see some countries backpedaling, pushing the brakes, and some countries really pushing for stronger wording in the final documents. And we will, of course, be following the negotiations closely. But first, let's get our broadcast underway. As the first COP week is behind us, one of the most widely shared stories is the story about the fossil fuel lobbyists. And the reports claim that there is massive amounts of fossil fuel lobbyists here at the COP, and they're infiltrating the talks. And it does indeed sound very unsettling when you hear it, right? But can it really be that many? And what kind of influence do these so-called lobbyists really have on the COP negotiations and the impact here, on the outcome? So to dig into this, I'd like to introduce Ingmar, the CEO and founder of We Don't Have Time. He has been doing some research on this topic. So Ingmar, please join us.
Thank you, Katarina.
Boy, it's windy here in the AC. It's very windy.
Yeah, we should move the studio permanently to the rainforest. Right?
Yes, that would be much more, well, stickier, but also more lovely, of course. So here at COP30, the Declaration of Information Integrity was launched. So why is this important?
I mean, this is a COP of truth, and if we can't trust the information, we will never know what truth is all about. And it's so important. I am so glad to see Sweden among 12 countries, Brazil, Canada, Denmark, Finland, France, Germany, and some others, Netherlands, Belgium, that have signed this new policy that is launched. And it's all about that we need to be able to trust the information provided. Without that, we will not know what the facts are, and we don't know the difference between facts and opinion. So I think that's really, really good from UNFCCC, and I'm very proud to be Swedish, that we are not only part of it, but we have been pushing for it as well.
So Ingmar, how transparent is the UNFCCC about participants this year?
They're getting more and more transparent for every year. So today it's very easy to see. They publish the names and the delegates and a lot of information about who is actually invited here. And I think that's very good, because this is an important meeting, and UNFCCC needs to be as transparent as possible. And there have been a lot of improvement here. So here it's not only UNFCCC launching this information integrity, they're also living as they preach. Of course, there's room for improvements. Everyone can improve in this matter, but I would really like to give the host here a compliment for providing the information.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Ingmar. The Kick Big Polluters Out report stated that we have 1,600 fossil fuel lobbyists here at the venue with badges. So what is your reaction to this?
I mean, first, as everyone else, I became upset. We have seen those numbers through many years now. It's increasing and increasing. This meeting should not really be about pushing fossil fuel. It should be about pushing for a fossil-free future. But after my first reaction, I also seen this story everywhere. It's like in all newspapers. It's one study that is quoted in so many newspapers. And it's getting people really
upset that are not here, because we that are here, I mean, have you seen a lot of fossil fuel lobbyists sneaking around? They're not really visible, are they?
No, they're not.
And that could also be the truth. I mean, the fossil fuel lobbyists they seldom want to reveal themselves, but really, is it 1 of 25 working for an oil company or a company that receives money from oil to push for a fossil fuel future? It's not what I see at others' COP. It's definitely not what I see at this COP. So I found the original report and I started to read about their methodology. And it's all about how you are defining a fossil fuel lobbyist. For example, if you work in a big bank, that some part of the bank are lending money to fossil fuel companies.
Even if I work with green bonds, for instance.
You are a fossil fuel lobbyist. If you're a member of International Chamber of Commerce, we have had members of International Chamber of Commerce at this stage pushing for green transition, pushing for a fossil-free future. You're a fossil fuel lobbyist. So it seems that this study is kind of guilt by association. If you can be, have some connection with fossil fuel, you're a fossil fuel lobbyist. And I mean, come on, that's not information integrity. And if you want to dig deeper into this study, it's not really 100% transparent in how they have done it.
So Nick,
they are using UNFCCC transparency to do a study that is quoted in world media, and they are not completely transparent of the methodology themselves. I think it's problematic. Of course, there are fossil fuel lobbyists at this meeting. I don't think it's that many. I don't share the same definition of a fossil fuel lobbyist. I mean, in the end, it's not about who you are; it's what you do. If you are doing the right thing, should you really not be able to come here if you're working for a bank? All companies, all countries, they are somewhat schizophrenical. If we can take the host, Brazil here, they are doing really, really good at cutting deforestation. On the same time, they're drilling more oil. But on the same time, they're quite outspoken about that we need to get off oil. So we need to think a moment here. Who is actually... Why is this study quoted in so many media? No one is calling it out and trying to say
why is that? Why are no other big media outlets questioning this and really digging deeper into it?
Because I think it's a way that if you want to be on the right side, it's easy to push a story that, upsets people. You're doing your job. And if you're a newspaper that, don't really like the climate agenda, if someone are criticizing the most impactful climate meeting to be meaningless and influenced by fossil fuel, they love that. So they have no motive to question that study. So this is why it's so important to have information integrity. And make science great again. It's not about saying that climate scientists are always right. No, it's about, don't mix facts with opinions. Wishful thinking in any direction is not good. We need to be very clear on the facts, and that's so important because there's also another perspective here, and that's actually, all the panels we have, all the pavilions, I haven't seen any oil pavilions, but maybe there are some OPEC or something there that's been on previous COP. But all the panels here, all the talks and discussions, they are very much about creating a fossil-free future. And if it's some fossil fuel lobbyist hiding in the dark, being anonymous, listening to us, isn't that a way to actually communicate to them?
Well, they will learn that the renewable energy transition is already. We won that battle more or less.
For once, the green lobbyists, people like you and me that are pushing for a fossil-free future, we are the majority. For once, all other days in governments, the fossil fuel lobbyists, they are in Brussels, they are in government buildings, they are having meetings, closed-door meetings. But this 2 weeks, is for us. So I don't see, we need, in order to make something great, we need to see what the problem. And the problem with the COP meeting is not those fossil fuel lobbyists sneaking around. Of course there are some, it's not as many as 1,600, at least the way I'm reasoning. But the real problem here is the governments representing their agenda for prolonging the fossil fuel use. That's the problem. Let's focus on that.
So Ingmar, in this report, it's also stated that 531 carbon capture lobbyists are present at the COP. So what do you say about this?
Yeah, that's even more absurd actually, because I mean, carbon capture, many people don't like it because for a very long time it has been used as an excuse to just keep drilling oil. I had this conversation with the climate minister in Norway, and they asked, why are you drilling more oil? We are going to capture it, no problem. I mean, if they're doing that, that's great. If they're saying it but not doing it, it's not great. And of course there are some carbon capture lobbyists that are here just to say that we can continue to burn more oil. But I would say that those 500 people that are here from the carbon capture lobbyists, they are here to showcase their solutions, that they actually are doing it. There's a lot of projects out there, and we need to scale that, because if we are listening to the science, in the IPCC report,
we need that.
We will not make it if we're not also using carbon capture and storage. So there are so many people that are saying, I like science, but they are only choosing their science. That's not what we mean at We Don't Have Time with Make Science Great Again. We need to stick with the facts, stick with the truth, be transparent, and have an honest and fact-based dialogue about things. The COP meeting is not great if it's not going to, reach an agreement that will actually handle the situation. But it's not this that is the problem with the meeting. It's a lot of other things, and in the end, it's the countries that are influenced by special interest, that some are still pushing for fossil fuel use and a lot of other shit. Let's address that and stay with the facts and don't be distracted. Because my children, my oldest daughter, she's 14 years old, she's reading the news, and then she read that there is a meeting I'm participating in with thousands of fossil fuel lobbyists. That is not giving her hope.
No.
That is giving her anxiety, and that is giving her a reason to give up the fight. Come on, don't give up, stay with the facts, make science great again.
Thank you very much indeed, Ingmar. This is important that we talk about this profoundly, because otherwise, as you say, we lose tempo, we lose hope, and we don't have time for that.
And just to be clear, this study, I have no problem with it. It's just that it echoed without any question. It's good that the kick polluters out are starting a dialogue about this. It's not that I'm saying they're completely wrong. It's important work to do, but we need to have a fact-based dialogue, not just push a narrative.
Exactly. So, in a few minutes, we will connect and have a glaciologist here in the studio. Another aspect of course, the Earth systems here. That is very important. But before that, let's reconnect with nature. And let's watch a film from the rainforest and enjoy it and see what needs to be protected.
Isso aqui, uma batatinha dessa, cada batatinha dessa é um pé, da crepioca.
The people who are living in Amazonian forest and in Amazonian part of this continent, they are really connected with this nature, this rainforest, and this plant of this forest for every day. Pega e não me larga. Significa stay with me, don't leave me, Well, everything. So you can buy, you lick, and have the food.
Är det som Ingmar eller? Here's the boat ticket.
Thank you. She does that.
All these secret gatherings.
On one trip to the Amazon, I ended up staying in a treehouse. And now if I say treehouse, this is not what we may have built ourselves when we were kids, but 20 meters high in one of these majestic trees in the forest. And you have at night all kinds of animals coming, monkeys jumping on the roof. It's very noisy actually. You hear a lot going on. And you don't quite know because you're not familiar with it. So it's an interesting experience. You feel you lose control a little bit over what's going on. Well, when you're back down again, every meter you make is actually really heavy. It's heavy on your breathing. It's heavy as well because you have a whole cloud of mosquitoes behind you having a feast. And it's just very interesting to take a step and think back and disconnect from our daily life in a very urban environment.
There's a Brazilian word, reforest your mind. It's both yourself and nature.
Here we are in the middle of nature and thinking to ourselves, first of all, it's hot, it's sticky, we're frightened of potentially getting bit by something, but we also are realizing that we're starting to settle into the trees and the foliage around us. We come from nature, and nature is us. And yet we are being told that we have to deny the impact of our impact on nature, that we have to deny the importance of nature through the geopolitics and the power games that are playing out right now as all of us are here at this COP30.
Did we as humanity divorce nature? Was that a mistake we did a long time ago? And do we need to reconnect to nature and realize we're not just dependent on nature? Well, maybe that's the wrong thinking. We are nature.
As we all relate to our closest family, because we're sort of done that way, what if we expand that circle to not only include our friends and family, but also a larger circle? So everyone is included, and then we all become one. It sounds like a grandiose idea, but perhaps that is the case, that it's only presence that we're longing for. And if we have that connection, I would also go from seeing a sense of controlling and owning my world around me, in whatever sense it could be, owning a room, owning things, showing up, and go to a sense of belonging, that I am part of all this, and everyone around me, including the weather, including all the animals, and including everyone, is a part of me. And then that makes me feel whole. So I think that is where we could go in order to solve this climate crisis. Okay, everybody, make science!
video you just watched was from our excursion yesterday with people, experts from all types of industries and NGOs and decision makers here at the COP that joined us on this adventure into the rainforest. Speaking of adventures, now next to me I have a real adventurer. He's an explorer and glaciologist and also CEO and skier. And you're CEO of the company Sustainability, and you're also a member of Researchers Desk. Erik Huss, it's wonderful to have you here, and you have prepared a keynote for us about the glaciers. We're really thrilled to have you. So the floor is yours.
Thanks a lot. I'm really happy to be here. We'll make a journey through the cryosphere. It's needed in the hot Amazon where we are. Let's start with the first picture with, it's a summit of Kebnekaise. It was the high summit for thousands of years, but due to rapid warming, it's not now the second highest one since 7 years. We're going to see travel, how our health is dependent on glaciers. So let's go. So what is a glacier? It's something else. It comes from France as a mass of ice and moves under the influence of its own weight, gravitation, and also through the accumulation and transformation of snow. When the thickness of the ice exceeds the strength of ice crystals is exceeded, and slow deformation and sliding movement occurs. It's called plastic movement, not the vicious, but the plastic. Now you know. And some cold facts, as we say in among glaciologists. This is the longest glacier outside the ice sheets, Baltoro Glacier in Pakistan. 10% of the Earth's crust is covered by glaciers today. Total volume, 33 million cubic kilometers is hard to understand, but 91% is in Antarctica. And 3/4 of all fresh water on this planet is found as frozen water in our glaciers. So we need them. If all the glaciers melted, the surface of the oceans would rise 70 meters. That's covering half of the world's population where they live today. During the last ice age, 20,000 years ago, nearly 3 times more, 33% were covered by ice and glaciers. And when the ice sheets melted about 10,000 years ago, the ice levels rose about 120 meters to today's level. So that's been really big changes historically. Now a short glacier lecture. So bear with me. This is a crosscut of a glacier. You have the accumulation zone at the top where the snow comes. Ablation zone in the bottom where it melts. And then you have equilibrium line altitude where there's 0. And this one is really sensible to changes in climate. So for instance, the temperature drops 1 degree for every 100 meters up in the mountains. So if you have like 1.5 degree warmer, then the equilibrium line altitude, ELA, increases in height with 150 meters. Now we're heading to 2 degrees. And what happens? For the glacier to be in balance with the 2-degree world, you see what happens with the size. It's increasingly, diminishing in size. So the glaciers are the most important landscape element to show what's happening with the climate. Everyone can see. You don't even have to be a glaciologist. So how are Swedish glaciers doing? Isfast Glacier, close to Kebnekaise. You can see Kebnekaise in the bottom. This is 100 years ago, a little bit more. 100 years later, see, almost all disappeared. Mika Glacier is in Sarek National Park. It's this big in 1907. 105 years later, it's all gone. Sydglacieren is almost the southernmost glacier. It was really huge. This is on the border to Norway. Now, 100 years later, it started to disintegrate. In 2008, it disintegrated in 2 parts. And what happened last summer, 1/2 of it just rushed down. It lost grip of the mountain, rushed down in the valley. So all the climbers and trail hikers, they had to beware. They had to warn everyone. It never happened in Sweden before. And some views from the Alps. This is Gurgel Glacier in Austria. You can see the difference. Just 100 years, or less than 100 years. And Patnurse Glacier, also in Austria. You see the whole landscape changes. And this is just in 65 years. And also this plant-crucial glacier, you see the whole landscape disappears. And also this means that the bedrock bounces back and starts to rock falls. It's really difficult. So mountain guides, they're dying in the mountains now. Aletsch Glacier, biggest glacier massive in the Alps. You can see when it disappears, you can see a trim line, the gray line, where it's all, where it used to be the old glacier limits. You can see where it was maximum just by reading nature. So this is me skiing in the northern Lyngen Alps in northern Norway. We went there by train, electric car, no carbon footprint, but we had a lot of fun. We were thinking, you know, this Terfala think tank, what can we do about it? How can we make people understand the difference between inaction and action? Because if you take the train or the fly down to the Alps from the northern Europe, you don't see any difference. So we did a little crazy project a couple of years ago. Me and a climber called Oskar Kihlborg, he asked me, can you save a glacier? I said, well, I tried with fossil fuel, covered sheets and helicopters, not interested. We made a project called CPR on the glacier, you know. So we constructed wool sheets out of, you know, surplus wool that was going to be burnt. We took it on kayak wagons and dragged them all over the mountains. That was quite an effort. And then we covered a piece of the glacier. After just 4 weeks, you can see how much it protects. This is between action or no action. So it's really efficient, and you could actually on this one you could Reuters, they heard about this news, and it was 19,000 news all over the world over this crazy project. So there's an interest in these crazy projects. But we wanted to make it bigger, so we found this Ekman glacier and close to Korsa in the northern Abisko mountains. We covered it, we wanted to cover it, and we collected the Swedish ski team, financed by Vattenfall, a Swedish energy company. There was girls and boys, but we couldn't get up the wool sheets. The snow was too soft, too warm. So what we wanted to show, climate change just happened to us. That's crazy. So we try next year. Well, glacier status globally. What happens? In the latest 100 years, Scandinavia lost 35% of its glacier mass volume. Alps lost 50%. But Himalayas, we don't know because it's so big. But they will lose about 180% until 2100 in 75 years. And what does this mean? Well, this is a graph of what's happening since the latest 48 years. What you can see down on the right-hand corner, well, you can't see, but 89% of the Antarctic melting happened in the latest 7 years or 9 years. If we zoom out globally, you see that it's accelerating. During 48 years, 41% of the changes the last 9 years. So it's not slowing down, it's accelerating the melt. And if you look at Himalaya, it's called the third pole, except for Antarctica, and then the Arctic. It's a huge resource of water for many people. About 2 billion people are dependent on the water from glaciers during droughts, half of the year. Globally, 4 billion people are dependent on glacier water, but every second person on this planet. Now there's flooding because of glacial lakeout flooding. It destroys infrastructure, hydropower stations, agriculture and villages. Tomorrow, there will be no glaciers. There you will have 4 billion people will express water scarcity because of disappeared glaciers. So glaciers is the most important landscape element for human well-being. Remember this. Just an example from 3 years ago, that was Pakistan. They had 75% more monsoon rain, an extremely hot spring. And then it was 3 times greater melting of 7,000 glaciers. They have most glaciers in the world. And 1/3 of the country covered underwater for months. That's, up to 6 meters water. So 35 to 40 million people were climate-related refugees, and all this was climate-induced. And in Antarctica, do they really melt? You know, some climate deniers say, oh, Antarctica grows. Yes, sometimes. But if you look at the average, the last 15 years, it loses 135 billion tons each year on average. And Greenland twice as much. So this is not, it's not a joke. And a recent study in a Durham University, they could see that these crevasses, they opened up by 25% in just last 5 years. And that means that more meltwater come into the glacier and lubricates, and it melts faster. So water and warm winds is really dangerous for glaciers. And a big carbon storage on this planet is the tundra, the permafrost regions in Siberia and northern Canada. You can see that the carbon flows are completely reversed. 1/3 is now a source of carbon because of the melting permafrost. And if you include the forest fires up in the north, it's 40%. So the sink is gone. And just an example of what happens, you can see, you know, the Arctic is heated up 3 to 5 times faster than the rest of the world. And what happens is that you have this wobbling jet stream. And just one example, just 4 years ago in Texas, you can see it's really cold in Texas. They had 40 below, and 246 people died in Texas because of cold. And meanwhile in Miami, just east from that, was 20 degrees. They were bathing. So you had these extreme changes, even cold, due to the hot, you know, warming, rapid warming. And you can also see that sea levels are locked in. 1 degree warming up to 3 meters because of inertia in the glaciers. And 1.5 degrees, 6 to 9 meters, 2 degrees up to 20 meters, and we're heading to almost 3 degrees, so maybe 25 meters higher sea surface. It takes a couple of 100 years, but it will come. So how can we protect humans and glaciers? Actually, there's a 3,000 pages report. It's a synthesis report of the assessment reports from IPCC, the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change. I don't want you to read it. I read it. I picked the ultimate graph that shows, is this possible to halve emissions until 2030? Well, if we introduce wind power to replace fossil fuels, you can lower the emissions by 4 billion tons each year. Solar power, even more, 4.5 billion tons. And then regenerative agriculture, you don't plow, let the bioturbation do the nutrient mixture in the agriculture. You don't need any technique for this. You need less technique, 3.5 gigaton, and stop deforestation. Like in the Amazon rainforest just behind me. You can save like 4 billion tons each year. And restore ecosystems like wetlands, mangrove, and forests, just to restore them. And they call nature-based solutions, NBS. And then change your fuels, of course, from fossil fuels to biofuels. For instance, here in Brazil, they use ethanol from these sugar canes. It's perfect. But this is a transition. You will go into electric sooner or later. But if you add all these, that's 21 billion tons each year. And the answer, yes. We can save the glaciers. We can save the climate. It's doable. And we save a lot of money and lives. If we just have to emit and dig fossil fuels. So with this, with a beautiful picture from Ushuaia and Torres del Paine in just south from me, a few thousand kilometers. I thank you with the font of Greta Grotesque. You can find it on Instagram. So now I'm interested to work with you will do about this. So thank you for your attention, and glad to have a talk with some skilled panel members. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much, Erik Huss. That was a great, clear presentation and, of course, profoundly disturbing. what you were telling us. And you're here representing the Researchers Desk and also Bulleen Center for Climate Research. It's important to point that out. So I have two more guests in the studio here for the panel. It's wonderful to have Paula Popo with us. Well, welcome to We Don't Have Time. You are Infrastructure Program Manager at Mercy Corps.
Correct.
And Ingmar Rentzhog, you know him by now, the CEO and founder of We Don't Have Time. So, starting with you, Paula, you are working with sustainable solutions for rural development and climate resilience. And you have also experience from working in areas hit by really extreme weather events. So just like Erik, you've seen with your own eyes the impact of climate change and also the crisis, of course, that the harm it does for human health. So please share a few examples from what you have experienced, Paula.
Yes, thank you. I must say climate change is happening in the Caribbean right now. It's impacting us right now. It's not a future scenario. It's something that's happening to us. The World Health Organization has estimated that between 2030 and 2050, 215 lives will be lost yearly due to the impacts of climate change. We see that even in the Latin American region, farmers, agricultural workers, construction workers are disproportionately affected by heat stress, which is linked to chronic kidney disease. And across the Caribbean region, St. Kitts, Nevis, Jamaica, these are just some of the areas where Mercy Corps works. Heat exhaustion, heat strokes, there has been a significant uptick. Recently, I responded to Hurricane Melissa in Jamaica, which was a Cat 5 storm. I was there on the ground a week after the hurricane passed, and I witnessed firsthand the trauma, the loss of lives, the contamination of water and food, vector-borne illnesses, skin diseases, blackouts, community members can't store their medications properly. So it has been catastrophic.
Thank you very much, Paula, for sharing this with us. Ingmar Rentzhog, there is much more focus now on the intersection between climate and health. And just the other day, we had people here in the studio in a session with people from Lancet Countdown and also from the Wellcome Trust. So what can you tell us about this, and why is really health starting to take center stage here?
I mean, there's so many connections between climate and health, and especially pollution and health. It's the same root cause. If we get clean technology, we don't get sick by the emissions and the particles and everything. But I would like to actually highlight something else that is not yet so well discussed in the climate and health area. And that's the fact that will be even, I mean, we all know that, as I just said, health and climate are closely connected. That means that the more heat on the planet, the more stress on health system. That costs money. Healthcare is not, I mean, we need to fund healthcare. And if we listen to the insurance industry, there is a report that came out earlier this year from Exeter University together with the insurance industry that says that if we're continuing on the warming path we are on right now, we are actually risking 50% GDP losses in 2 to 3 decades. In that scenario, who will be able to fund hospitals and healthcare? 50% GDP loss. And what will happen in this scenario? One of the first things that will happen, that is already happening in affected regions like California, is that cost of insurance are going up. But people are not seeing this all the time because governments are stepping in and paying for this increase of insurance costs. And that is creating a false security among people living in affected regions because they're not paying the full price. The taxpayer are taking it, and that works for a while until it will not work. And when that happens, we're risking a financial crisis that will instantly put up the insurance of, fire and property insurance. And at the same time, as those two experts know a lot more about, the health costs will just go up and up. This is a disaster scenario. When I get old, seriously, if we got on track, will I even get free healthcare in Sweden, or will it just be very basic?
This is a very strong and different, from many different perspective. But Paula, what could you say when you hear Ingmar's statement here, from your Mercy Corps perspective, in terms of insurance and the costs it's going to put pressure on the health sector?
Yes, definitely it will put pressure, but there are things that we can do to help communities, stave the impact of some of these shocks. And I believe, we believe that center-based, nature-based, community-based initiatives are best suited for responding to some of these shocks. Things that protecting the mangroves, safeguarding watersheds directly impacts the water quality, which will impact food security. And we know the big impact that water quality and food has on health. So these are some of the ways, as well as building resilience hubs like we're doing within the region. And these resilience hubs are outfitted with renewable energy sources, so that can help support communities during blackouts, so people can store medicines. They serve as places for community gardens, cooled rooms. So, if you're really hot during certain periods of the year, you can go to the community center and you can, cool down if you're suffering from some form of heat stress, as well as rainwater harvesting and filtration.
Thank you, Paul. So we really need to both work with mitigation and also adaptation. So Erik, from your glaciology perspective, what can we do to protect people? I mean, this melting is already going on.
The melting is going on and it's accelerating. So I have an example, actually, mostly is Global South and poorer people who are affected the most, but they are not causing the trouble. But there's one example, actually, where there is a kind of karma going on. In the south of Sweden, one of the richest area in Scandinavia, they have like Bugattis, Lamborghinis and everything. They're getting flooded. Before it was every 75 years, now it's every second year, where the sea level is rising 1.5 meters, and it's very low flats. So they're flooding half of this area every second year. So they're planning to build a wall that's 3 meters high. So all this beautiful view over the ocean, or the villas.
It's being built as we speak.
Yeah, and it's a market share of 70 billion crowns. The insurance companies, the biggest insurance company in Sweden, they don't insure houses anymore in this area. Just imagine, find the irony that the richest people in Sweden cannot insure their houses anymore. I'm brought up there, so I know exactly what's happening there. So even the rich are hit. So nobody can escape this, and it's happening now, not tomorrow.
Thank you, Erik. And many of them are protesting that their view is being destroyed too, which is another story.
Yeah.
So, Ingmar.
Perhaps they can build it like a glass wall. Or you can have TV screens looking at the Earth, how it looked when they were young, before we started to destroy it. I don't know.
That's a good idea.
But I would like to agree with you that there's so many things we can do about this. What I was talking about is, if we're not acting, if we not get this under control, it's still things that will happen, but not that worst case scenario. And we need to get into the public debate, into the governmental debates, and into policy making, that the cost of acting, adaptation and mitigating now saves so much cost later. This is not a matter if climate will cost us. It's a matter if we are willing to take the bill now, when we can manage it, or if we are going to take the consequences when it's so expensive so we can't afford it. That's what it's all about. And health, health have previously not been so. The health system is very much built on fixing it when you get sick. So I think we need also to get the health system to be better at fixing the problem before we get sick. And there's so much things to do there, and it's also happening a lot of things. I've lost the name of the African country that actually have banned import of fossil fuel cars. And the reason they're doing it, perhaps someone here knows the name of the country.
I think it's
Ethiopia. I mean, it's not a rich country, and they're doing that. It's quite bold, right? And the reason they're doing it is to protect public health. It's not for the climate. It's to protect public health, because the emission from the fossil fuel old cars are actually killing people. And I'm sure that Ethiopia will be a winner because they will cut health costs.
Thank you, Ingmar. Paula, so what do you think needs to happen here? Should we focus on policy, finance? Which are the most important levers here?
Definitely. All of these are important: finance, regulations, policies. But I would say the most important thing is finance. Communities, they know what they need. But the systems that are set up to fund resilience are oftentimes, they're very slow, they're very bureaucratic, and they're very risk averse. We also, as I mentioned, we need to build centers where people can learn about disaster risk reduction, disaster risk management, maybe how they can insure their homes, maybe how they can manage their health in these types of situations. And I believe this is why our Resilience Hub initiatives are important, because they are like centers of excellence for the community, and even helping the community to advocate for what they need. Because none of this makes any sense. It doesn't make sense we build stuff for the community. We have to build with the community, because the community knows, they know what they need.
Thank you, Paula. So from your perspective, Erik, which are the most important levers here? What would you like to see from policies, etc.?
I think knowledge is the base. You cannot unknow the known. So the more educated you are, policymakers, the public, the schools, if we know what is the risk and what's the chances of doing something better, then you can choose. Like the enlightened customer, without knowing you do the wrong, you can be completely unaware. Most people are unaware. They are not evil, they're just unaware. Make people aware of the choices. Enlighten yourself. It doesn't cost anything. It doesn't weigh. Your brain doesn't get heavier of this knowledge. And it makes you a wise and empathic citizen. So I think make science great again. We've heard it before. And it's listen to the scientists. And do it with heart. Don't forget the heart. And use these transitional skills for sustainable development. It's all there. It doesn't cost anything. So it's so much for free, but you have to be open-minded. And then you will save the glaciers as well. You will also save the health of all the people downstream. There's 4 billion people affected.
Thank you, Erik. To conclude this panel, Paula, please share with us what's up for you next year at COP. What are you doing the final week?
Of COP this year? Yes, well, I'm contemplating very much on our Resilience Hub project, our prime project, which is preparedness, resilience, and impact for those most excluded, which is funded by Takeda Pharmaceuticals out of Japan. So I'm interested in expanding the reach, more funding opportunities to build more resilience hub throughout the region, to expand that network so we can help strengthen communities to respond better to these kind of shocks.
So this is a public-private partnership that you're talking about?
Yes, an innovative partnership. Takeda Prime is a pharmaceutical company, but they have through their global CSR program, they are targeting initiatives such as the Prime program to help reach more communities and strengthen public health.
Well, we do need public money and we need private money into this field, right? So Erik, what is the next, this second week look like for you here at COP? What are you going to do?
I'm gonna, talk with as many policymakers as possible to listen what's happening, try to affect, because sometimes one little meeting with with the right person can change so much, because we feel so little. But there's an image of the Earth where it says, "I'm only one person. What can I do?" And then under the Earth it said 8 billion people. So each one of us has the power to do much more. So believe in yourself. Do what you can, follow your heart, learn something, and make trust between people, then you can do action.
Well, thank you very much. I'm not going to ask Ingmar what he's going to do the next rest of the week, because we know that, all of us here at the team. He's going to work himself to the bone. So thank you so much, Paula, and thank you so much, Erik, for joining us here and for your fabulous work, important work, and best of luck.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
And now we're going to move on, and we have a session here coming up. It's about circularity. All sectors produce material and waste, we know that. And this production leads to emissions. Therefore, circularity is a necessity, and it's an all-encompassing framework that can rapidly really deliver long-term emission cuts and also climate resilience, no matter what industry, if we really focus on circularity. And here in COP30 in Belém, two developments underline just how central circularity has become. First, we have the launch of the Global Circularity Protocol. This is the first framework helping businesses measure and manage circularity across their value chains. Secondly, the Circularity Economy Now initiative. It is highlighting how cities and coastal communities can transform waste into solutions. Together, they show that circularity is now a core pathway to accelerating the climate transition, and this is really great news. So today we're highlighting circularity in a special two-part session from our studio in Stockholm. So I'm gonna hand over to a session in Stockholm, and we're doing this in partnership with Circularity Monday and also with Climate Hero. So I'm heading over now to Alexandra Davidsson. She is from Climate Hero, and she'll be moderating the sessions from Stockholm. So take it away, Alexandra, and thank you again to the panelists here in this panel.
Thank you.